Hello, it's Mazzy here, and welcome to my record library, otherwise known as my yoga room. Just a little asterisk, I've never done yoga in my entire life, so it just seems it's a dead sound in here. There's no record player in here. It used to be a small bedroom. I opened up the main door to a little alcove off the hall here on the downstairs area. So, music there, music upstairs in terms of stereo. So, this is a video I've been thinking about for a long time. I wasn't sure how to tackle it, but this is about the Steve Hoffman music forums. And in a way, it's a ranking video. Now, the difference I've learned from making these YouTube videos for the last 4 years versus being a contributor or being a poster, I should say, on the Steve Hoffman music forums since 2009, it's totally different making videos and expressing yourself and allowing people to see your intent, your emotions, your in my case, my smirk, my smile, which you may or may not like. That's totally fair, versus trying to be somewhat humorous occasionally in the written form. And especially on forums and things like that, it doesn't always come across. Okay, this is a ranking video. I'm doing a ranking video, and it's my top 10 Hoffman music forums bitches. Now, let me do a little history. My friend Coleman, my late friend Coleman, his name was Cha Cha on the Hoffman forums. Became a contributor, a member in 2007. He got me in. 2 years later, I got into. I did just notice, and it was very touching, there was one old post I was reading, and I came across an old post by my friend Coleman, Cha-Cha, and it now says in memoriam. So now, if you don't know the Hoffman forums, there is a link below. I think it's a wonderful, you get conflicted, but it's a wonderful outlet to learn about music, about pressings, about equipment. There's a segment, a whole separate segment for visuals if you're into movies and television. If you post it over a certain amount of on threads, if you contributed, you can sell things. And what's great about the selling things there is that there's no fees and you're just doing it directly. And at that point, theoretically, it's a trusting audience on both sides for gear and records and things like that. But go look at it. And I've learned so much. I see what's coming out, releases. Having said that, these are my 10 rants. Again, there's a certain humor in this video, and my take is just my opinion, which is one of my rants with an asterisk of my opinion. So let's start out from number 10, going up to number 1. Number 10, no royalty or residuals from records and cocktails, or cocktails and a record. I kind of say that with a little smirk because I created, I started a thread, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, maybe it wasn't that long ago, where I wanted an idea to post a cocktail. Obviously, I'm the martini guy. A picture, I like the image, the visual image. So post a picture of an album cover with a cocktail. Again, me with martinis. I did a few, we got a few responses, didn't go anywhere, but it started growing and started expanding. And I stuck with it for a few years, and then it just snowballed. And I want to thank all the group of guys and gals over there, mostly guys, and especially Apple Richard, that's his screen name, who's taken it over, and it's become a life of its, like, huge. And when it gets too big, it starts all over again, and it's been continued since, again, 10, 12, 13 years ago, whatever it is. I mean, someone's going to come here and just tell me exactly when my first post was. And I'm not really a contributor anymore. I visit in occasionally. But it's been so great. And they actually moved it to the long and winding thread. When threads just go on for literally years and years, it goes to another segment out of the music forum, out of the gear forum. into the long and winding threads forum. My point is, I want royalties. Am I being selfish? Now, I kind of do this in jest, but it's gotten so popular and it's been there for so long that, they refer to me as the architect of that. And I appreciate that with all my heart. And it's a great group of posters. And then whenever I go in there and see it, I just love it. I mean, it's a really great, tight-knit community of cocktails and records. I do get a little pissy when someone starts going on showing records and there's no cocktail there. Now, if you're not an alcoholic beverage drinker, you can do any kind of like alcohol-free cocktail. So come on, guys. Really? All right, that's number 10. Number 9 kind of relates to what I said in the intro. Humor rarely translates when on the written page, or many audiophiles don't have a sense of humor. I think that might be the better of it. I understand when the Hoffman forums, music forums first started, it was more of an audiophile forums, and some of the long-time contributors and posters are kind of upset that it's gotten more into the mainstream of records, of Record Store Day, of all that kind of stuff. But it's expanded. You can find audiophile threads and whether it's records and listings. And again, I've learned so much from a lot of other posters there. And, I go in there as serious as I can at times, but at sometimes you got to have a sense of humor. And it doesn't translate. I realize my posts don't always translate to it because you don't know the inflection or the intention. So that's, I'm sure, not exclusive to the Hoffman forums. It's just the way it is, and so be it. And having said that, there are some rules within these things. Like, for instance, I like the idea, no politics, things like that. And occasionally, though, a thread just, you can't help it. They did have a thread during the pandemic where people could just vent in a separate section. But sometimes music is politics. But I get that because it convolutes things. So I'm fine with that. Having said that, it's really fun. If you go to the front page, you see Steve Hoffman's actual Instagram page. And I like that when he gets political on his thing. And maybe people don't notice it there. I do follow him on Instagram. And he is a mastering engineer. That's all of another overview of it. But again, let's continue. Number 8, subthreads. Too many subthreads. And what I mean by this, conversations are meant to occasionally meander. Sometimes you're on a subject of a title or a piece of gear, and all of a sudden, like when you're having a conversation, I know threads are a little different, but you're waiting for something to come out and it hasn't come out. And sometimes it meanders into something that relates to it. That's like the natural progression of a conversation. I like that. Some people get so pissy, off topic, and they get a little ranty on you, a little holier than thou. From my opinion, again, I get it if someone's really gone off board, but sometimes threads get derailed a little bit. They have what they call gorts. These gorts that monitor that if something gets too esoteric or too off topic, or they feel political or whatever, they'll delete you. And they can also bitch slap you down. And I think I've been bitch slapped down on the Hoffman forums 3 times in my career, where I've been sort of benched for 3 or 5 days for either arguing with a gort or saying something that people felt was inappropriate. And I have been inappropriate occasionally. That's why I like doing these videos, because I can be as inappropriate as fuck and no problem. And in that sub-threads too are shipping threads. Really? Now, I have been guilty of doing that, but they have to do these separate sub-threads and a shipping threads. My record is in Houston. It's stuck at the post office in Peoria. It's on the way to LA. It's stuck in Fullerton, California, and in Fresno. It's like 4,600 pages of shipping threads, waiting and looking and posting where my Uber box is stuck right now. Things like that. I get it. It's kind of like, all right. It's not about the music. Now, again, I get in there too occasionally. So, I mean, some of these things I'm ranting about, I'm guilty of. So I'm not, saying I'm holier than thou at that. So anyway, that's number 8. Okay. Number 7 is a big one. I don't know why this is not higher. Sometimes I'll post something, and I see other people do this too. You post something about a feeling of a record or a piece of a gear or whatever it is, and then someone comes in and responds and says, in your opinion. Well, of course it's my fucking opinion. I wrote it. You didn't write it. I'm not speaking on your behalf. I'm not speaking on Steve Hoffman's behalf. I'm not speaking on anyone else's behalf. In my opinion, do I have to fucking write IMHO in my honest opinion every time I do a friggin' comment, an opinion? Of course it's my opinion. I do not speak for the president of these United States or any other country. So give me a break. All right, move on. That's number 7. Number 6, and this is one actually I've seen Steve Hoffman, when he does come in, he gets a little aggressive sometimes. I mean, I love reading his comments, but he'll go directly to the jugular for someone. I think in some cases, I'm surprised he doesn't get benched, but of course he's our fearless leader here and our host, I should say. And so he can do anything, and as he should, but he doesn't like these threads either. Versus threads. What a fucked up thing is that? Like, for instance, new versus used, physical versus digital. Is it a competition? Sgt. Pepper, Hendrix versus the Beatles version. I get we can have a conversation, but a versus, really? Oasis versus Kinks, Spotify versus Apple, Wish You Were Here versus Badfingers, and Pink Floyd and Badfinger both had an album title, Wish You Were Here. Really? We need to discuss that for 10 pages or whatever? Joni Mitchell's Blue versus Carole King's Tapestry, because they're both women? What? Huh? What? Joni Mitchell versus Mary Travers, Elvis Costello versus Joe Jackson. What, the new wave thing? Lennon versus Serge Gainsbourg. What the fuck? Elton John versus Billy Joel. Well, that's an easy one. Elton John, definitely. Billy Joel's a wannabe hack copy of Elton John. Monterey Pop versus Woodstock. I mean, I agree with Steve Hoffman on this one. We don't need verses. Okay, verses. It's not a competition. Number 5, what if threads. Reminds me of the old Saturday Night Live. What if Superman had a broom? What if Spartacus had a Piper Cub? And these are some real ones. If streaming was no longer available, what would you do? What if John Lennon had been a Rolling Stone? What if John Bonham died in 1971? I mean, what if? Let's just make shit up and I don't know. I don't get those either. So I think they're kind of wasted. They waste space there. They clog up the arteries of the Hoffman forums, in my honest opinion. Okay, number 4 on my ranking of the ranking of the Hoffman forums, my little pet peeves. Threads with title like, okay, these kind of titles, and these are real examples. Why do Husker Du records sound the way they do? Because they're friggin' grungy punk records from the 1980s, and they're loud, and that's why. Everything doesn't have to be a dynamic audio file recording. That's why. Because they sound like the band recorded them. Whatever budget, whatever studio, that's how they made their records. We don't want that to sound like a Steely Dan Asia record, okay? Help me get into Sparks or ELO or free jazz. And I'm combining things. That concept of help me. I need to help you to get into music. Listen to the fucking record and then get into it or not. Not every artist is for everyone. How? Get me into it. Help me. Okay, here's another one. Good Night Tonight. Is it Lennon's worst composition? Convince me otherwise. If you don't fucking like it, don't like it. I don't have to convince you otherwise. Here's another one. This is, I think, a recent one. Why does Ozzy Osbourne not have a sellout stigma attached to him like other rock and metal artists? I'll leave it at that. Okay, that's number 4. Number 3, we're getting a little more serious now. Now, again, I understand the Hoffman forum started as audiophile forums. It has some of that, a lot of that still, believe me, a lot of it in terms of obsession. But that's the entertainment, and I enjoy that too, and people talking about pressings and all that. But the never-ending obsession of finding the next best version. And I've talked about this, the fear of missing out before, FOMO, and going audiophile pressings up the ladder. And now, of course, we have the one steps and the single batch and the single origins and all that kind of stuff. But at some point, just enjoy it. I mean, I read between the lines. When you read Steve Hoffman come up with some of these comments when he jumps in occasionally here and there, it doesn't seem to me he's getting a lot of these ultimate editions, like the big box. And I mean, maybe he gets something here and there, gets comp something as he should. But even if he buys something, I mean, he'll go for original pressings, and he kind of knows the source. And obviously, he knows a lot. I mean, more than I do, or this guy over there does. But at some point, this obsession that, enjoy the music. And now with okay, it's the 45 RPM. I get about the better, the speed and the more dynamics. But then now it's a super vinyl version. And again, I've been guilty of some of this, but this whole box set of, okay, now it's in the box and the super vinyl in the one-step box that's this big, and the record's like that much, but you need all that space to hold all the promotional crap they shove in that box, and you can spend $150, $125 for it. That obsession that, you got 12 copies of Asia, and you got 12 copies of Dark Side of the Moon. Now, again, I have Beatle multi-image things. I do it to an occasion, but after a while, like this obsession for the next thing, like, why don't they do this one and that one? Again, that's part of the hobby, so I get it, but it's still kind of like, again, these are just personal takes on this. Okay, number 2. This one has magnified, but maybe I'm just noticing it more in the last few years, but the people's obsession with a click or a sound or speak about something that lasts for a second or two. This is the first part of this. So at 3 minutes, 28 seconds, I hear a whoosh on that Coltrane record. At 1 minute 14, I hear a it lasts 2 seconds. At 60 seconds in, I hear a last 0.5 seconds. At 3 minutes, 5 seconds in, there's a was there a bird, like a crow outside Van Gelder's studio during that Sunny Stitt break? I mean, it sounds like people are listening for a problem. And then, of course, then everyone goes to 3 minutes and 5 seconds in to hear the of the record, and they don't enjoy the music. They're listening for the problem, listening for it. Does this version, does the version that came out in 1958 have that same version? Does the CD version that Van Gelder, who actually likes digital better than analog, was that there? Was that squeak there in the chair? Was that knock on the guitar there? At some point, this obsession listening for the problem and listening for the issue becomes I'm kind of amused by it, but it's like, enjoy the music. I've enjoyed this music for 56 years or something. Jesus, 58 years. Yeah, God. Again, it's fun if it wouldn't be kind of like obsessive, in my opinion. Also, a part of that is the Warble comes to mind. Now, I get it. A lot of people heard these tape issues, especially on the Tone Poet Andrew Hill record, Blackfire, which is actually one of my top favorite of all the Tone Poet records. This is the one with the issue. I'm actually showing one record in this. I love this record. It sounds great. I don't hear it. Now, This leads me to something. Some people just don't have a version of that, and I totally believe there was some kind of issue, and you know, was it fixed? Was it fixed in the with Joe Harley and Kevin Gray mastering chain? And there's this little piano warble that comes on a series of records. I don't hear it, but that leads me to my own personal setup, and to Steve Hoffman's credit, it's his forums, by the way. He's a host. He wants everyone to put their equipment profile. And it's not to embarrass anyone if they have less or to make someone look great if they have more. But if you're talking about the sound of a record, people want to know, like a barometer, what you're listening to. What's your gear? What's your speakers, your amplifier, your amplification, your turntable, your cartridge, all that stuff. And we should know that because, is your room live? Is it a dead room? As much as you can, because we all hear different things. And, one record could sound great on one person's system and not on the other. And I actually like that. I don't really go in and look at people's, but if I want to, it gets a barometer. But my record system, my playback system is very forgiving. And some people have challenged me. They goes, oh yeah, Maslov again. He never has an issue with Warp records or some click or some problem. And frankly, I don't. I don't get a lot of bad records, very few. And I don't know if it's my Hanna ML cartridge on my Riga turntable and the way my system is. I don't get a lot of distortion. There's a few records here and there lately that are talking about the end of the Marvin Gaye, the Kevin Gray reissue. I don't have that on mine. I haven't heard that on mine. Combination of my ears. I'm an older guy, decent hearing, but I can hear things, and I just get past. Maybe I'm just getting past it, enjoying the music. But this obsession about that type of thing, my system is forgiving. Maybe that's why I love it. And again, I don't get many records, and I hate to buy into that thing looking for the problem. So I try to skip those threads most of the time, or at least that part of the conversation. Again, I have no problem if a thread meanders, I can skip that part and move on. So, okay, the number one rant I have about the Steve Hoffman music forums, it's a tie. Two different things. Okay, the first one of the two, is more specific. The other one's, well, you'll hear. The first one is the kiss ass threads when visitors chime in. Whether it's our host, our gracious host, Steve Hoffman. Yeah, everything Steve Hoffman does is great. Everything. No, he's a great mastering engineer. Not knocking him. That's just an example. Everyone bows down. Oh, Mr. Hoffman. When Joe Harley from Music Matters Jazz and Tone Poet Blue Note was in, oh, Joe Harley. They bow down. Now, I think you have to have a certain reverence to these people and politeness, but ask real questions. Having said that, as much as I mean, there's a couple of label people, of audiophile label people that are in there chiming in back and forth. I love that. But it get to a point where everything they say is like, oh, we are not worthy. Having said that, there's also this, it's kind of like when you build up these artists and then you want to frig them, knock them down, and they chase them away. There's been, a history of mastering engineers and contributors that are known in the vinyl world, mastering world, recording world, that got chased away because obsessive wankers just go after them in a mean-spirited way and just kind of challenging them. Now, not that you shouldn't ask the tough questions, but there's ways of doing it. And there's people who just have no couth at all, and in my opinion, so they chase them away. So that is that's the serious one of the two. The other one, the number one, my number one problem with the Hoffman forums, my number one pet peeve, and I'm going to move this over because I think, just perspective, if you've never seen my channel here, if you don't know what I'm about, those 3 to 4 rows and down, all the way down 6 rows down, are all Beatles. I'm a Beatle collector, huge Beatle collection, okay? So you see that. My number one rant of the Hoffman forums is too many fucking Beatle threads. Now, I like the Beatles as much as anyone else, but oh my God. Oh my God. All of a sudden there's like a thread on McCartney 3 or something. Then there's a thread on McCartney 3 shipping. Then there's a thread of McCartney 3 favorite tracks. And there's a poll, what are your 3 favorite tracks on McCartney 3? And multiply this by every fucking Beatle, dead or alive, every fucking record they've ever made, movies, records. What color socks did John Lennon wear in Magic Mystery Tour when he was on the bus? I mean, there's threads. That's a made up thread, but too many Beatle threads. And I'm a Beatle fan, and I think there are way too many Beatle threads, subthreads, and wanky, like off the chart kind of weird shit threads, or the Beatles Oz. Those of you who read the Hoffman forums will know about what I'm talking about there. I can't explain it. Anyway, too many Beatle threads. That's number one. My number one wanking complaint. But again, I love the Hoffman forums. I have a good time. I met some great people through there. Some I've met in person over the years. And thank you, Steve Hoffman, for hosting this. And it is fun, but it is sometimes you have to have a little sense of humor. But I get some people literally don't have a sense of humor, or don't care for my sense of humor, which is fair. I put myself out there in a certain way that probably turns off some people. Fair enough. Same with this channel. But I thought this would be a fun thing. I love the Hoffman forums again. Check it out again. With records coming out, you learn a lot about pressings, about different issues, and it's better than it's not good. And it is good. Anyway, thanks for watching, and Mazzy loves you, and I'll see you next time.